Lagos never truly sleeps. Even after midnight, millions of people are still moving. Drivers chasing one last fare. Traders closing their stalls. Passengers rushing to catch buses before dawn. In a city this large, people disappear every day. Most are found. Some are forgotten. But every once in a while, someone vanishes in a way that makes absolutely no sense. This is the story of a passenger, a seat, and a mystery that nobody could explain. This is Against the Streets of Lagos 8. The passenger in seat 13. For Kunle Adeyemi, it began as an ordinary shift. The overnight Lagos to Abuja route was one of the busiest in the country. Every evening hundreds of passengers passed through the terminal. Some traveled for work. Some for family. Others for reasons nobody would ever know. That Friday night seemed no different. At least at first. One passenger attracted no attention whatsoever. A middle-aged man carrying a small leather briefcase. Quiet. Polite. Forgettable. He handed over his ticket, stepped aboard, and walked directly toward the middle section of the bus. Seat 13. Nobody would remember him later. At least that's what they claimed. Throughout the journey, passenger 13 barely moved. He didn't speak, didn't use his phone, didn't interact with anyone. Several passengers would later describe him the same way. Quiet, calm, invisible. Yet almost everyone remembered seeing him. And that was where the problem began. Because by sunrise, he would be gone. And according to official records, he had never existed. The bus arrived shortly after dawn. Passengers stretched, collected luggage, and slowly exited the vehicle. Routine. Ordinary. Nothing unusual. Until Kunle started counting. 31. He counted again. 31. Yet 32 passengers had boarded in Lagos. Or so he thought. Seat 13 sat empty. No passenger. No luggage. No briefcase. Nothing. Kunle searched the entire bus. The passenger was nowhere to be found. At first he assumed the man had left unnoticed. Then he checked the passenger manifest. And froze. Seat 13 was blank. No name. No booking. No ticket. According to company records, nobody had ever occupied seat 13. Kunle couldn't stop thinking about seat 13. The record said nobody had been sitting there. Yet he remembered the passenger clearly. The dark jacket. The briefcase. The calm expression. Most importantly, the ticket. Determined to prove he wasn't imagining things, Kunle requested access to the terminal's CCTV footage. Hours later, he found exactly what he expected. Passenger 13. Walking through the terminal. Boarding the bus. Taking his seat. For a brief moment, Kunle felt relieved. The footage proved he was right. But that relief didn't last long. Because the mystery was only beginning. The company launched an internal review. Booking records were examined. Ticket databases were checked. Payment logs were verified. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. There was no record of passenger 13. No ticket purchase. No payment. No registration. Nothing. Even stranger. The seat had apparently remained unsold. It was as though somebody had erased every trace of the man. Except for one thing. The CCTV footage. And suddenly everyone wanted to know who he was. Within days, the story reached the media. Most journalists dismissed it. A clerical error. A misunderstanding. Nothing more. But one reporter disagreed. Aisha Bello. An investigative journalist known for asking questions others avoided. The moment she saw the CCTV footage, something felt wrong. Not because the passenger had disappeared, but because somebody appeared to be working very hard to make him disappear from the records. And that raised a disturbing possibility. What if passenger 13 wasn't missing? What if somebody wanted him erased? 3 weeks later, the case took an unexpected turn. A road maintenance worker discovered a brown leather briefcase near an abandoned rest stop along the highway. The description matched exactly. Passenger 13's briefcase. For the first time, investigators had physical evidence. Inside, they expected identification. Travel documents. Maybe even answers. Instead, they found something else. A collection of photographs. several official-looking documents, and a flash drive. Nothing more. No wallet. No phone. No clue identifying the owner. Yet the contents suggested something alarming. Passenger 13 had been carrying information somebody desperately wanted hidden. The flash drive contained hundreds of files. At first they appeared unrelated. Financial reports, construction permits, corporate emails, government correspondence. But as Aisha began connecting the pieces together, a pattern emerged. Every file pointed toward the same group of individuals. Powerful people. Influential people. People with the ability to make records disappear. Including people. Then came the discovery that changed everything. One document contained a photograph. A photograph of passenger 13. And beneath it were two words. Confidential witness. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Aisha stared at the screen. Kunle stared at the screen. The realization hit them simultaneously. Passenger 13 wasn't an ordinary traveler. He was a witness. And whatever he knew was important enough to get him erased. The answer arrived from an unexpected source. Buried among the files was an old personnel record. A name. A photograph. And a history someone had tried very hard to erase. Passenger 13's real name was Ibrahim Soni. 10 years earlier, he had worked as an internal auditor for a major infrastructure project. His job had given him access to contracts, payments, approvals, and financial records. Records that revealed something dangerous. Millions of naira had vanished. Documents had been altered. Inspections had been falsified. And powerful individuals had profited while ordinary Nigerians suffered. The deeper Ibrahim looked, the more enemies he made. Then, one day, he disappeared. Officially, he resigned. Unofficially, he went into hiding. For years Ibrahim remained hidden. Changing locations. Changing identities. Always looking over his shoulder. But eventually he made a decision. He was tired of running. The files on the flash drive were meant to reach a federal investigator in Abuja. That was the purpose of the journey. That was why he boarded the bus. That was why he carried the briefcase. And that was why he never reached his destination. At some point during the trip, Ibrahim realized he was being watched. Someone on that bus knew who he was. Someone had followed him. And someone intended to stop him before sunrise. The breakthrough came from a forgotten detail. A routine stop along the highway. Security footage from a fuel station finally revealed the truth. Passenger 13 had left the bus. Not at the destination. Not at a terminal. But during a late-night stop. The footage showed Ibrahim speaking with an unidentified man. The conversation lasted less than 2 minutes. Then both men walked out of camera view. Neither returned. The bus continued its journey. Nobody noticed. Most passengers were asleep. And by dawn, seat 13 was empty. But the mystery wasn't over. Because investigators soon discovered that the unidentified man had used a false identity. Just like Ibrahim. The evidence from the flash drive triggered a nationwide investigation. Accounts were frozen. Properties were searched. Arrests followed. Several influential figures were linked to years of corruption and fraud. The missing money. The altered records. The falsified reports. Everything Ibrahim had risked his life to expose was finally coming to light. But one question remained unanswered. What happened to Ibrahim himself? Despite months of searching, no trace of him was ever found. No confirmed sighting. No confirmed death. Nothing. Only questions. Months later, the investigation officially closed. The corruption network had been exposed. The evidence had survived. Justice had begun. But the man at the center of the mystery remained missing. One evening, Aisha and Kunle stood overlooking the water, watching the sun disappear beneath the horizon, thinking about the passenger nobody could explain, the witness who vanished, the man who boarded a bus, and never arrived. Then Aisha received an anonymous email. No subject, no sender, only a single attachment, a photograph. The image showed a crowded street in another country, and in the distance, a familiar face. Passenger 13. Alive. Watching the camera. Before disappearing into the crowd. The message beneath the photograph contained only 6 words. I finished what I started. Goodbye. To this day, nobody knows where Ibrahim Soni went, or whether he ever returned. But one thing is certain. The passenger in seat 13 was real. And sometimes, the people who disappear are the ones who know too much. Some mysteries are never solved. A week later, Aisha received another anonymous message. No sender. No explanation. Just one attachment. A file named The Last File. And beneath it, a message. If you're reading this, there are still more truths buried in Lagos. Aisha clicked the file, and what she saw would change everything. Against the Streets of Lagos 9. The Last File. Coming soon.